this to us. Is the future of trucking scary? Okay, when I started driving, it was 1972 when I got my license. So I want to just show you a little bit of history first. The first truck that I drove, the first truck that I really started really driving was I believe it was a 74 Kenworth conventional. Didn't have springs in the back, it had torsion bars. It had a feisty 290 Cummins with a 13 speed. It'd run around 74 miles an hour, as I remember. And that was fast. So, I mean, I pulled a 32-foot flatbed, spread axle, and I was hauling steel coils out of Inland Steel to National Material in Elk Grove Village. That was the first thing I started doing. But the very first truck that I started driving was a GMC, because he wanted me to get a feel and to learn about hauling steel coils. And I thought that would be kind of cool to drive a small straight job. What he did is he took a GMC. It was a conventional tandem tractor. He cut it behind the cab, extended it out, threw a flatbed on it, and made it a 20-foot flatbed. And those things were awesome because he made about 4 or 5 of them or so. And what the big guys were doing is hauling big coils. They were able to go to the mill and tell the driver, "Hey, dude, I'm just here for 2 skids, or I'm here for three pallets, or I'm here for 3 bundles. Do you think I could slide in and have them throw those on and I'll pull out right away?" And a lot of times they would let you do it. I did it many times. In this little straight job, and I started going and making them pick up at one place, a little strip over on Kilburn and 48th. I don't even know if it's still there, but they did slitting there, so slitting coils. So I would go over there and pick up a load of skids, and that they would throw on, and I would go and deliver them. Now the 283, I'm trying to think what it was. I think it was a 283. It was a small I think it was a 6-cylinder. High RPMs. You had to keep the RPMs up to about 2,300, and it was a 10-speed. Back in those days, there was no power steering. There was no maxi brakes. There was no air condition. So here I am in this little straight job, 20-footer. And that thing, like I said, you had to keep the RPMs up real high. So it was screaming, And since it was a Detroit engine, it shifted like this. And that's it. And then you're at maximum speed, maximum RPMs are 23 or 2,400. I think it was 23.5. You had to keep it up there or it wouldn't have no power. So you'd be off the corner, getting 10 gear, and you'd be going 45. But you'd be there in about 2 seconds. It was fun. You'd hear the chains, because on the back of the flatbed, I had racks, and I would hang my chains there. So when you'd be up, you'd hear them chains banging and stuff like that. But no power steering, no air conditioning. High RPMs, had the 2 vent windows turned in so that you'd get air conditioned, and you'd go and work for 10, 11 hours a day. Then I graduated. The boss says, "Jim, I'm going to give you this Kenworth to drive." I was like, yes. So I started driving the Kenworth. The Kenworth did not have power steering, but it had the next best thing. Air assist steering. Fun. When you would turn the wheel, a piston on the linkage would cause it to give air pressure to assist the steer. So when you were going down the road, I mean, it was like power steering. When you get back into a dock, it helped a lot, except, ching ching, what was it? Can you guess? Air assist steering requires air pressure. So when you would turn it just a little bit, that piston would push air this way, and when you would turn it back, it would exhaust and push air this way. So air pressure, fast. So when you would be backing down into a steep dock, like Little Strip's dock was kind of steep, I think. So when you'd be backing into that dock, sometimes I'd run out of air. Matter of fact, many times I would run out of air. And when you did, you had no brakes. Not like today. Today, when you pull out your button on your emergency, you pull out the tractor protection valve, the air leaves the maxi brakes and a spring puts the brakes on. But back in 1972 and 74 and 75 in that area, they didn't have that. They had an air tank that when you'd pull the button out, the air tank would feed the brake maxis and it would hold the brakes on until you run out of air. So once you would run out of air, you would have no brakes. So I remember many times backing down in that dock with that little 32-footer and running out of air and kind of slam into the dock a little bit. You'd hear all the guys at Little Strip, son of a, you know what I mean? But those were the days when those were trucks. I mean, that's what we had. I mean, I'm sure before those years, we had other stuff, but it's not like now. First of all, the Detroit engines was 2-cycle engines. They were not 4-cycle engines like today. All engines now, I believe, are all 4-cycle engines. Back then, those Detroits were 2-cycle engines. Now, my Cummins, the 290 Cummins was not a 2-cycle, but the Detroits that was in those straight jobs were. Those were 2-cycles. And a lot of guys that had cab overs and some of those other trucks that had Detroits in them, they were all 2-cycle. Because I remember a lot of times if you were rolling with the truck, you can dump the clutch out and start it. But you got to remember, if you were in forward, if you were in first gear or second gear, and you were rolling back and you hit it, it would start, but it would start, the engine would be going backwards because it was 2-cycle. It ran like crap like that, but it would start. So you'd have to, shut it down. And on those engines back in those days, to shut them off, you could turn the key off, engine wouldn't stop. You had to pull out a valve that choked it and would shut the fuel off. Not like today, you got electric solenoid kills the engine right away. But back there with the Detroits, you had to pull it. It looked like a choke, but it wasn't a choke. It would cut the fuel, or else that sucker would run, man. You had to be careful with those things because if you had it in low gear and you hit that starter, it would start and it would go because it was that 2-cycle engine was strong, for what it was, and that sucker would take off, man. Especially when you're sitting there with no frickin' brakes because your air tank leaked, so all your brakes would be released. They didn't have spring-loaded maxis. Your air tank kept air to the brakes, and that kept them applied. Once that tank, because a lot of times they would leak, so if they leaked, when you go and hook up to that trailer, the trailer would take off on you because it was sitting there with no brakes on. So you had to kind of be careful. Sometimes you'd have to back up to it, hook the hoses up, charge the tank up before you can get underneath it all the way. But those are how trucks were then. Now I have a 60 series Detroit in my Freightliner, and it's a 4-cylinder. It's a 6-cylinder, and it's a 4-cycle, of course. It does not have the DEF system on it. It's pre-DEF. and it's turned up to about 505 or something horsepower, or 495, somewhere around 500, and it pulls 80,000 pounds, no problem, all day long. It's turbocharged. Back in the old days, most stuff was not turbocharged. They had blowers on them. That's why a lot of these kids with the race cars and stuff like that, they got a 471 blower. Those were on diesel trucks. Those were on diesel trucks. Now they put them on race cars to compress the air down into the intake and compress the fuel down into the intake. But now the trucks are turbocharged. My truck is turbocharged. I think the 290 did have, I'm going to double check, but I'm pretty sure that it did have a turbocharger. Detroit's always had the blowers on them. And I had a Cummins in there. I had a 290 Cummins, and I'm pretty sure it was turbocharged. Because I remember when you were going, you would hear that whistle a mile away. It had a big turbo on it. That's correct. And it was loud. And I used to love that, man. You'd get next to somebody, and all of a sudden I would kick it, and you'd hear that high-pitched whistle, and they would be looking at you like, what the? And it would take off, man. That sucker ran good, man. I'd split that sucker down out of 13, and she would run. That was awesome, man. That was fun, man. I was running away with most trucks back then. 74 was cranked out. So now the trucks are different. They have air conditioning. They have power steering. A lot of the newer trucks are automatic transmissions. That's why you see girls out there driving trucks. Back in the day when I was out there, I didn't see too many girls. I seen a few, but the majority did not have anything like that. So to go back up now, so that was past, present, and now let's look at future. The future is electric trucks, which I do see. There is a company that's running them out of the rail, out of Global 4. I see them all the time. They're white. And they're not Teslas. They're not Teslas. But they're electric. And you see the guys going by and you don't hear nothing, you just see it gone, you know. Because me, I'm 10 speed. He just goes, drive. He's out of there. So that's the future. The electric trucks are going to come. I know a lot of people, but they will come. I don't care what you say, you're not going to stop that. But in the near future, we're going to have other stuff. We're going to have autonomous. At first, there's going to be a driver in there, but he's not going to be touching the wheel. But if it goes off course or does something that's not right, as soon as he touches the steering wheel, it will automatically go in manual mode. So wouldn't that be kind of nice? That'd be. Hi, bro. Take me to Elk Grove. Let me know when I get there. You're not supposed to sleep. You're not supposed to sleep. But could you imagine the truck? You're just sitting there. You're sitting there like this. And don't tell me you're not going to be, because you will. Oh. You know what I mean? That's the future. They have companies right now that are running them. They're just starting some of them, and they're scary to me. To see an 80,000 pound truck going down the road, I'll be like, where's that driver at? And don't tell me he's sitting in New York and he's on a little, you know what I mean? That's even scarier. Because even if you had, in every little corner of this, you had cameras all over showing all around your truck, that's awesome. But, you know, that camera view versus what your eyes can see is a whole different animal. Especially if the truck's running off sensors and cameras, and it's got some type of AI that's controlling it. I mean, it's a cool thing. I enjoy technology, so I think it's a very cool thing. But with that being said, is also a scary thing because of the fact that you have a truck, 80,000 pounds, going 55 or 65 miles an hour down the road, and somebody does a brake check. And the autonomous truck goes, you want to play that shit? I don't think it would do. But could you imagine that if it got pissed? Because no matter what you say about AI, it follows the blueprint. It follows what it's trained to do. But what happens if some idiot does do a brake check on it? The autonomous truck, I'm sure, will have some kind of safeguard to say, "Oh, put the brakes on." Will it change lanes? Will it? There's a whole lot of things. And then I seen before where they were training. I think it was Tesla, but I'm not sure. They were testing a scenario. They had the car. The car was going down the street, and the simulator put two things out there. It put a dog out there and a woman. The car had to decide who to hit. Killed the dog. It tried to stop or something, and it didn't do it in time, and it hit the dog. I believe. I don't remember, but I know it was something like that. But you got to remember that the AI is going to have to make a decision in a split second, and I know they're faster than we are. The only thing is that our judgments are better than AI in most scenarios, because our computers are pretty freaking fast, especially when we have training and many years of driving experience versus just I know the rule. Which one do you hit, the woman or the dog? I hit the car, or I'll hit a building. I'm not going to hit the lady. I don't want to hit the pet. And your mind will make that decision up real fast. Will it make the right one? I don't know you. I know me. But I don't want to die either. So the truck ain't going to be thinking about, well, if I do this, I'm going to die. So the scenario is it scary? Is it going to come? Yes, it is coming. Do you think that we should stop it? No. But you just said it was scary. It is scary. Is it going to kill some people? I believe it probably will. But trucks and cars and bicycles and motorcycles kill people now. Will that autonomous truck kill people? Maybe. Will it learn from that if it did? Yeah. Would it go to jail? No. Would they bench it? Maybe. So, I mean, and what happens to an autonomous truck when it gets to a company? Those are good questions too. Does a robot get out of the truck and walk into the shipping clerk or receiver and say, "Hey, dude, I have a load for you. Put it in door number 7. Okay. Is that going to happen? I mean, I don't know. Or is somebody from his dispatch office going to say, "Our truck number 17 is outside. He has a load. It's from the Global 4 Railroad. Can you send somebody out to open the doors?" Ain't there a driver in that truck? No. How's it supposed to? So I'm supposed to go out there and open the doors? Yeah, would you? So those are things I don't know if they're thinking about, or they're just going to be that for long haul driving or whatever the scenario is, you're going to have a driver in the truck for a while, I'm sure, but the truck will do the majority of the work. So it'll be less work on the driver. So that means the driver's going to get more pay, right? Right? Or are we going to put a school kid in there? Because I don't need his experience. I only need a short time. There's a lady walking. Grab the wheel, hit the brake. Turn a real sharp corner, and there's a car stuck there. You know what I mean? So, but that is the future that is coming. I would love to try that. I would love to ride in one of those suckers, man. Just check it out. You know what I mean? I would like to see that. But it's a scary thing, like I said. And I mean, for me, it's it's going to save a lot of stuff. I mean, it could. Did you ever watch the movie iRobot? There's a cool scenario in there where him and that girl's riding in his car, and it's autonomous at the time. Or you can switch it to manual, but then they get mad because the car is running at like 150 miles an hour, 130 or whatever it is. So he starts switching it over to manual mode, and the steering wheel comes out, and the girl goes, "What the hell are you doing? You know, you can't drive these speeds, you know, because of." Imagine this. Right now, at rush hour, you have 1,000 cars, 1,000 trucks, and motorcycles all mixed up on 290. Everybody, the humans looking. This guy's playing with his phone. This guy's flirting with a girl. This guy's playing with his yoo-yoo or talking to his wife or whatever. Everybody's got a different thing that they're doing. But now let's put those in the future and say they're all autonomous controlled cars now. All the people are sitting in the back seat and the car's doing it. So if all the cars are autonomous, can they run at 130 miles an hour on the highway? Yes. Would there be any accidents? I doubt it. Just like in iRobot. All those vehicles were hauling ass and there's no accident. Because the cars are communicating with a central computer. As long as the central computer don't go down, we ain't got a problem here. But so everything is running ahead, you know. This car is sensing that vehicle. This car here is sensing the one behind it and the one in front of that and next to it and everything. So it's one big computer scenario. So will trucks. So actually the traffic will move faster eventually because it'll be controlled not by you being distracted. You know what I mean? You won't be distracted by anything. Because I could be looking around like this, but the car is focused. You know what I mean? The AI is focused. It's not going to be, oh, I'm going to check that girl's butt out, man. Woo, did you see that? It ain't doing that. So will that be better for us or worse? Only time will tell. But the truck part of it is a cool thing, and it would be interesting. I know that they're starting to use a couple companies are starting to do that. So, but that's my topic. It's the future of autonomous. You know, trucking technology is the topic, and I think it's going to be kind of interesting. And I hope that I live long enough to see some of it. Really, really, really get to go and work, because I do know that it will be fascinating to see it. I just hope it doesn't get abused. It's my story and I'm sticking to it. You guys drive safe, okay?